Hello, good evening, and welcome to PM Express with the best political team. Now, with less than 48 hours to the December polls, the contest appears to be mainly between the two leading parties, as each rounded off their year-long campaign with huge rallies. But we must emphasize that the NDC's presidential candidate, as a result of the passing of the late president, had 39 days to run its campaign. Now, tonight, we'll look at these campaigns in retrospect and what message has best resonated with the electorates. Again, the NPP takes a swipe at the NDC for their hypocrisy over the promise of a free senior high school, revealing a tape that purportedly has President Mahama's voice backing that. We'll put that to the scrutiny as well. And now there is also the call to ban motorbiking. The question is, will it work? And are the parties in favor during this election period? And we'll talk about all of that. Then again, with party bigwigs here in the studio tonight, we will resurrect the Kumasi chaos that appears to threaten the stability of the country on Friday, despite a peace pact that the parties have committed to. You can join the show by text 1760 or be part of it by posting your comments, suggestions and contributions on our Facebook wall. My name is Stephen Enti, and welcome tonight. I have with me in the studio Alex Segbefia, who is Deputy Chief of Staff. Also, we're expecting Jake Obechebi Lamte, who is the MPP party chairman, to join us later on in the show. And then we'll hit the phone lines and speak with Kofi Bento, who is Vice President of Imani Ghana. I'm told that he's on the phone. He's waiting in as we begin the show. It's great to be here with you again, sir.
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers.
Good evening. So let's recap some of the campaigns so far in the 39 days that the president had on his hand.
Well, it's been hectic, quite rigorous, but very fulfilling. Because as we moved from region to region, it was quite clear that the work of the NDC under Professor Mills had been appreciated by all and sundry, especially traditional rulers and elders of communities. And it was clear that they all kept asking for some more of what we had done in 4 years by virtue of the successes of the programs that had been put. So that made it easier to go through the process. If you're going and always meeting hostile receptions, then obviously it's not as fulfilling. But the receptions helped us to continue galvanize ourselves, and President Mahama was a revelation in terms of energy levels and the ability to keep going, district after district, constituency after constituency, region by region. And we have been to all the regions, culminating in this week going through Greater Accra. So we've had a successful campaign. We are clear in our mind, regardless of polls and what, that this is a one-touch victory. We don't think it's going to be close. We, however, understand that in this, the politics now is actually the difficult time, because you need to be very vigilant across board. And we need the security agencies to do what is required of them across board in every region. We are clear that if we allow voting to go peacefully and the votes are counted peacefully, we are clear that NDC will come out victors. So we don't want any shenanigans, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
We just want a clean-cut election, and we are clear that if that happens, the NDC will be victorious.
Right. You heard the Deputy Chief of Staff. Let's now take a look for ourselves, some of the visuals, captivating images that came from the campaign trail of the NDC.
And we'll make sure that the fair share of the national cake that you deserve, you will get. And in the period that he became your president, The developments that have taken place in this country are unprecedented. School projects, anywhere I've gone, school projects, water, electricity, just name it, everything. From the northern border with Burkina Faso to the Atlantic Ocean, every district has gotten its fair share.
$700 million CDs for a 6-classroom block. 3.5 years later, single-digit inflation. 6-classroom block is now 2.5 billion CDs. 250,000 inflated contracts. Wyoming will never happen while Akufo-Addo is president of the republic. It will never happen. We're going to bring a sense of security to our nation by making the rule of law work for everybody in Ghana. We have a very bright and great future. What we're looking for is the leadership that can mobilize our nation and the resources of our nation to develop Ghana and make Ghana what the dreamers and the founders of our nation dreamt about. That is what is ahead of us.
Welcome back to PM Express with the best political team. You actually saw clips from the NDC and the MPP campaigns, which were all wrapped up today. We have Kofi Bentel on the line, and I'll have a quick word with Kofi, and then we'll come back into the studio. Good evening, sir, and thanks for joining us.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
Now, when you look at the campaigns, today was the last day for the two leading political parties, NDC and MPP. What would be your impressions of how the campaigns have been run up to the last day?
Thank you. My impression of the whole campaign is that it has generally gone very well for both political parties. I think they've run a good campaign. Of course, there have been excesses, and they were not unexpected. But in all, I think we have to congratulate the two gentlemen at the helm of affairs, President Mahama, who is a very fine gentleman, and lawyer Akufo-Addo, who is a very, very fine gentleman. I think the two of them have conducted themselves well. I cannot fault them for any slips on their personal accounts, so to speak. Maybe people behind them have said things here and there, but I think generally they've conducted themselves well. And I think this is the most issues-based campaign that we've ever seen in the history of this country. And I also want to congratulate them on that. Clearly, education has been the big issue, but other things like, health have been very big. Things like energy have been very big. And generally speaking, it has been a very issues-based campaign. and I think we must commend them for that as well. So generally, our democracy is growing, and by and large, I cannot say I'm not satisfied with how things have gone with this campaign.
Right, Kofi, you mentioned excesses. Walk us through some of the excesses you recall of these campaigns, both sides.
Look, I don't want to go through a catalog, but the point is, in every political party or grouping, you have the hawks or the hard heads and the hot heads and the fringe elements, okay, who have, who will always go overboard and say things which are distasteful. You have them in MPP, you have them in NPC. I am not going to bother myself by rehashing all these things. I think we've all been here, we've all seen them go through it. But the point that has to be emphasized is that these people were clearly in the fringe. You cannot say that the mainstream of the NPC is generally that way, and you cannot say the mainstream of the MPP is generally that way. And I think that is to their credit, that indeed for the key persons in both parties, at least we have pretty level-headed people who are looking to do the right thing, even if they make a mistake here or there. I think we've all seen how things have gone, and we don't need to rehash the excesses.
Right. So tonight, as all the two parties, in fact, all the political parties rest their campaigns today, do you foresee that the success you talk about in the campaigns will reflect in the turnout for voting on Friday?
Yes, I think so. I personally think that we are going to have a very high turnout for this election for many reasons. The last time we didn't have a very high turnout because I think a lot of the NPP people were disgruntled. And in previous years, you've had different things, affecting turnout. But this time around, I have a feeling that people are really going to come out and express themselves. So I expect a high turnout, compared to previous years.
Thank you very much, Kofi Bento. We'll join you again later on in the show to discuss some more aspects. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back to the studio, Alex Egbafia. The campaigns have rested. What have been the core messages of the NDC in this campaign period?
Well, I think that education has been at the forefront in many respects of this campaign. And we've had a situation where we have stood for education that will show, or the quality and access to education has been the main thrust of our educational position. And also, we have looked at the ability to galvanize the youth and also create jobs for the youth. So that has been the main focus of our attention. It is interesting to note that whereas in the last possibly 12 years, or way from about 96 onwards, this is the very first election where inflation hasn't played a part in any big way. Nobody's talking about inflation because for the last 2.5 years, we've had single-digit inflation. And so all of a sudden, nobody's talking about it. But this is a real success story of the NDC. Nobody is talking about macroeconomic stability in general. You don't hear people talking about money in their pockets. Because if you're working with single spine, you actually get more money in your pocket. Our wage bill has moved from 2 billion to 5 billion. People have actually either doubled their wages or even more, depending on where you work in the salary structure. So things which were, if you look at the 2008 election, which were at the forefront, and even the 2004, seem to have disappeared. And that is why all of a sudden this free education issue has now become the subject. Because there was no subject of the old, which we hadn't campaigned on, which to a certain extent we hadn't dealt with. The only one that was a difficulty, but you couldn't really make much mileage on it because it was a global phenomenon and everybody knew that we had done our best, was jobs. Jobs for the youth. But even then, we had created so many jobs and so many opportunities in the three and a half or so years, now we'll say 4 years, that you couldn't actually fault us on that basis. And that is why I believe that the free SH issue had come up. At some point, corruption was trying to raise its head, but it is clear that at least when you look at judgment debts, you actually have to look at the whole spectrum, and no government is going to come out. It's almost like a tit for tat. This says that, this person says that, and these are actually legal issues. Ghanaians are discerning. It is a sole commissioner has been put in to look at it. It's a problem that spanned not one government, a whole heap of governments. So you were not going to make that much mileage from the particular road which do. So free SHS, it caught on for a while.
I read a report online. I'm not going to cite it authoritative because I don't remember the details, but it suggested that the NDC conducted 37 anti-senior high school advertisements. Was that necessary, that much? A lot of anti-senior high school advertisements.
We had been, you see, people don't realize, all along we had been campaigning on the basis of getting people more schools, creating more schools, helping teachers, getting the quality of teachers. We have been saying that for 4 years. But nobody's counted how many times we've been saying it, because there was no counter to it. All of a sudden, you have free SHS. And it is every problem of Ghana seems to be going to be solved by free SHS. Free SHS, we heard Nana Akufo-Addo at the IEA. He was asked about maternal mortality. By the time he finished answering that question, he had reached free SHS as one of the problems that occurred. So the whole ethos of everything that the MPP was saying, they would end up with free SHS. So there had to be an answer, because human nature is such that when they hear free, oh, I want to hear about this. But it was important for people to be made aware and get quite discerning. Actually, we are not the first country that has talked about free SHS. Some have actually implemented it, and they are suffering for it. Go to East Africa, check Uganda, check Kenya.
But these are very small populations compared to
that should even make it easier. That should even make it easier. The bigger it is, the more problematic it should be. So once you have places which have tried it, and we had free education, not just free, we had free education in this country. As our economy had begun to suffer from the late 60s after the first coup right into the 70s, we lost it. Before you go back into it, you must make sure that the infrastructural base of your education is strong. Namely, you have enough schools, you have enough teachers, you have enough laboratories, you have the basic setup. Then you can move towards free, because the Constitution expects you to do that. That's why it says progressively free at senior high school and tertiary. So it's not something that hasn't been envisaged, or it's not a vision that we are not trying to...
So the point I've been trying to make is that for the NDC's campaign strategies to also revolve around countering a policy position of the opposition party, portrayed it perhaps as being jerky about its own position on education. Well, you wouldn't say so?
No, I wouldn't say so, because why weren't they countering ours? Why do people think we are countering theirs? We had been going around always saying we'd build schools, we had to build more classrooms, we had to make sure that teachers have this. Their counter to our position was, look, we'll have it free. We are going to do free SHS. And therefore, they were countering what we had been saying all along. All we did was we now had to go out and raise this thing and explain to people what really we meant we were going to do, as opposed to what was being put forward. Because there was no policy for them when we were saying we will do all these things. Free SHS, when was that policy made? It was made this year. It didn't come in 2011. It was a 2012, as far as I'm aware, policy, which was raised, and prior to that, we had been talking about...
The MPP mentioned it subtly in the 2008 promise, but, well, I mean, they didn't focus on it as a major policy thrust.
Policy drive and concept. It's this year. But we have been talking about quality teachers, quality education, schools under trees, which was our policy before. We've been doing all this. So why is it we are not countering their policy? We are just re-emphasizing our policy based on their counter to our policies.
And that's pretty fair.
Yes.
And so would you say that the education of all your policy positions that you took around the country, the education bit resonated, or some other resonated with the voters for which they are going to reward you, hopefully?
As you go around campaigning, you learn that people's problems differ. So if you go to Cape Coast and you start talking about building schools, you've missed the point. They have too many, if at all. You talk about what people need in their area. The universal ones like education, health, you talk about in general terms or explain your position. But you must still, when you're at the local level campaigning, deal with local issues and how you're going to resolve them. And that is what we did whilst we campaigned. We dealt with the educational issues, we dealt with the health issues, but more importantly, we dealt with what people really wanted on the grounds where they were.
And what makes you...
Sometimes it was water, sometimes it was electricity, but what was common was everybody seems to have read Charles Dickens, and everybody knew about Oliver Twist. They all want more. If they haven't had before, they cannot have more. That was telling us that they were happy, and some even said so. Some traditional rulers were even criticized by the media for coming out openly and showing support for the NDC because of what they felt we had done for them. So we are clear that at least in terms of our record, in terms of our achievements, people trust us and believe that when we say we will do, we do.
So tell me, I mean, one last question before we go on a quick break. What makes you so confident that the NDC is going to win this election one touch?
I happened to be the campaign coordinator for Professor Mills in 2008. I went around the country with him.
You didn't believe in 2008 that
no,
you will win one touch?
In 2008, we knew we would win, but we knew that we were going to have a real uphill task, putting all the factors together. Our opposition had incumbency. They were louder than we were, and still are louder in terms of what they... So we had a really uphill task sending our message. I have always been of the view that in this country, no government, no opposition party has won an election. Governments lose elections. It's a subtle difference, but it's a reality. It's the behavior of the government in power that creates the opportunity for oppositions to come in. We haven't created that.
Does that mean you cast doubt on the work you put into winning in 2008?
The way the MPP was behaving at the time, we were clear in our mind that we had an opportunity and we would win. We had no problem with that. But it was going to be an uphill task. And you could tell from the receptions as you went round that people were not too sure and people were trying to protect their positions or hedge their bets. We don't have that this time round. We are not seeing
makes you more confident.
That makes us more confident. It's based on history, where we've been before and where we are now. And even when you give allowance for the fact that, yes, we are in government, so some people are just going to say it because you are there. And even when you give allowance for that, some of it is clear, especially when you go there without the paraphernalia, you're part of the advance team and you're just talking to people on the ground. It is clear that people, one, are happy with the NDC, but two, they actually are happy with the candidate that we have. President Mahama is actually going to do a lot better than a lot of the parliamentary candidates that are standing for the NDC. Because as an individual, he's actually been taken on by the nation. He's loved. And that's because of his persona, his humble nature, his peaceful demeanor, his ability to communicate. He's a fantastic communicator. So we have a product. And the problem, the reason why I'm confident is that no matter how well your packaging is, if your product is not good, you'll be exposed. And for me, our product is fantastic. So even if we had cheap packaging, we would get away with it. But we actually have a very good packaging as well. The campaign has been run very meticulously and put together properly. So as far as I'm concerned, we have a product that is good and we've marketed it properly. And he has also marketed himself. As far as I'm concerned, we're on a winning thing.
Well, you are watching PM Express with the best political team. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to PM Express with the best political team. And I must say that we are expecting Jake Obechebi Lamte, who confirmed to join us in the studio for this discussion. So anytime he joins us, we will put some of the questions that I've been putting to the Deputy Chief of Staff to him, so we can get a feel of how the NPP feels about the end of their campaign and what the chances are for them as we go into the election. So let me come back to you, Mr. Segbefia. There's this tape that suddenly surfaced, which has the voice of President John Mahama backing the Free Senior High School in the past, but criticizing it now. On my Joy Online, he's quoted as saying, if he had any investments, he will push it into quality. What's the party's reaction to this tape that has surfaced? And the MPP says that as a result of this tape, the NDC, the president, John Mahama, and his candidature is questionable.
Well, first and foremost, I believe that John Jinapor, the presidential spokesperson, has come out and said that actually the tape is totally taken out of context and is actually not what was said. The president has been consistent that we will move towards progressively free senior high and potentially tertiary, which is what the Constitution mandates. But specific costs which were on day senior high schools, they would try and get removed so that they becomes free. But there was no mention of boarding or senior high schools in general. So it was a particular set of fees that he addressed and said that would happen to make those free and take away. So it's completely out of context. He never said free, we are moving towards free high school. And he's made a statement which is on the internet for those who want to check, and that there's nothing further to add. We are consistent. What he did say though was that we are committed to free compulsory universal basic education, FQ, which was the main reason why after I think it was 10 or 12 years of the 1992 Constitution in 2002, we had to ensure that we had free compulsory universal basic education, which we are still struggling to come up with, but we haven't done. We still have schools on the trees. Capitation grant has been increased under our government, but it's not where it should be. We're hoping to increase that. You have school feeding program has been expanded fantastically, but we don't have school feeding nationwide. That is what you're trying to get to, etc., etc. So there are things which we could add to help, and there are some extra fees that or charges that are put on by schools which government should be able to absorb and get rid of, so that actually people don't charge fees through the back door, so to speak. So FQ, definitely he said we are moving, but that is a constitutional provision. So he was simply expressing a view that...
But you're saying that he didn't expressly say that he backs free senior high school education. Well, I'm just being told that we are unfortunately unable to get Jake Obechebi Lamte because he's holed up and was unable to join us as he promised or confirmed. So we have him on the telephone, and I'd like to put some of the issues that we've discussed so far to him for a reaction. Good evening, sir, and thanks for joining us on telephone, although you couldn't join us.
Please accept my apologies.
Yes.
My deepest apologies for not being there with you in person.
Right. So I'm in studio here with Mr. Alex Segbefia, Deputy Chief of Staff, and we've been talking about the end of the various campaigns, the NDC campaign and the MPP campaign. Now, in particular, he has been talking about the NDC campaign and the message they've taken out to the voters, and also the fact that one of the things they've done, the party has done, was to counter your position on their policy on education by running a couple of anti-senior high school advertisements against yours. So I'm putting this in perspective so you will have a better understanding. And also he says that the information they picked on the ground on the campaign suggests that they are winning one touch without any second round. That must be threatening to your party, isn't it?
Well, let me start with the last one first then. I mean, there's all sorts of different polls that you can run, but there's only one poll that counts, and that's the poll that's coming on Friday. So Friday night, at the close of the polling and the voting, we'll be able to see what the polls are really showing. He can be confident in his 51%. I will be confident in my one-touch majority as well. As you know, I've been in research for some time, opinion research. I formed what was at the time the most successful market research company in this country. So I really will back myself when it comes to opinion research. Be that as it may, let's move on to what he was just saying a few minutes ago about the consistency of President Mahama in the matter of free SHS. I've heard him being consistent because I was at the Tamale debate when he came out and stated that he was committed to free SHS. You know, that he believed in the free SHS. Now that is completely in line with the message that he was giving out in 2008, and it perhaps is not so much in line with some of the things that the NDC are putting out now. As far as I've been right around the country and listening in on radio stations and watching television and things, it's far more than 2 ads that they are using against the free SHS. Fortunately for us, perhaps, because they're advertising so many different ads that they're trying to use to attack the concept. Okay, that I think what they're doing is actually confusing everybody, especially themselves. You say that you believe in free SHS. You say that you can't do it for another 20 years. Okay, Dr. Abu Sakara said, well, if you want to wait 20 years, whose children are you going to sacrifice? Which child is going to agree? Which parent is going to agree that his child should wait 20 years before getting an education? And that's a very difficult question for anybody
Jake,
to say.
let me quicken. Jake, let me quicken the discussion a bit. I mean, on this tape of Mahama's voice purporting to support the free senior high school policy, what exactly is the MPP's point on the tape?
Well, his support. I mean, either it's his inconsistency, okay, and that he comes out and says that he believes in it, he wants to do it, and then he turns around in his advertising and says it cannot be done, okay, or, that is a very confused person. In his book, he turns around and says he can never make up his mind. Like whenever he has a decision to make, he waffles and waffles and waffles. He cannot make his mind what decision to take. And this is blatantly coming through on this free education matter. He knows that he benefited from it. He knows that others also benefited from it. He knows it's a good idea. He himself has actually preached it before, and now suddenly he's confronted with it, and he's having to reverse the stand that he's believed in for so many years, and he's finding it difficult. He's a waffler. He waffles. He's always, rolling from left to right, never consistent in making a decision. And this is really coming through. That is why, having said to the people that he and Professor Mills would bring it, having promised them in 2008 that they would bring it, we come to 2012, they have not.
But Alex,
only have they not brought it, but they are now also saying that, we have to wait another 20
Yeah, but
years.
Alex Sekbafia right now, in the studio has said that the president didn't expressly say that he supported free senior high school education, as has been captured in that tape.
Listen to the tape. That's all I'll say. I mean, there's no point arguing about it. Just listen to the tape. Make up your own mind about what he said and what he meant. That's a very simple matter. It's not for Jacob Echwi-Lamptey to tell you, okay, you listen to it, and then you make a decision. What does he mean by what he said?
Right.
I think you will find that he is part of the movement that believes, and he himself said, as I said on the stage at the debate, that he believes in free SHS. So what is the whiffle? Why do you have to wait 20 years for it? Nana Akufo-Addo says that no, this country cannot afford to sacrifice any more children, so he will do it now. Okay, then you say no, it's not possible. Well, let's give Nana Akufo-Addo a chance. We'll find out if it's possible or not. And God willing, it will prove possible. And once it proves possible, so many hundreds and thousands of children will start benefiting now rather than have to wait for 20 years and have 3, 4, 5 generations of school children go without, or kids of school-going age go without education.
Right. So quickly, Jake, the campaign has finished for you tonight. Walk us through some of the key messages, apart from free senior high school, which we all heard several times, some of the key messages that the NPP and Nana Akufo-Addo took to the electorate during the year or so that you had to campaign.
Fortunately, one of the things that we said was that both NPP and NDC have been in power before. Okay, NDC are currently in office, so that there is a track record to compare. We were coming to make new promises. They were also going to come and make new promises. One of the bases for whether you believe a promise or not is past performance. So critically, one of the things that we had to do was to establish what it was that we achieved during the 8 years of the Kufuor government. Okay, and then what we had to also do was to expose their lack of achievement especially in the 4 years that NDC2 has been in office. We also had to show that they were not people of their word, and that they were actually giving politics a very bad name. That they made promises looking people straight in the eye. We will reduce petrol prices drastically. We will have a one-time NHIS payment. We will do this. We will do that. And then consistently in almost every single promise they made, they failed to deliver on that promise. So we had to really point that out to the people. I mean, not only did they fail to deliver on their promises, in the area of corruption, they make such a huge noise about NPP corruption. We will jail all the Kufuor ministers. At the end of 4 years, you have not yet been able to establish that any Kufuor minister was corrupt. What you have done, in fact, is the reverse of that, is to go and pay Alfred Woyomi 52 million Ghana cedis without him having a valid contract, any contract at all with the government.
Right, so
without him having done any work for the government. You go and pay CP 94 million euros without it having been established in any court that they should be paid. You didn't charge them what had been established by arbitration that they should pay you. So many different.
Right, Jake. So let's bring ourselves back on track. I mean, of all the messages which you've taken to the electorate, which of them do you think has resonated most with them, and for which you're hoping that?
I hope the message that have resonated is that the NDC have failed. They were given 4 years to do something. In those 4 years, they have signally failed. Now we're looking at what the future will bring. We are turning around, and Nana Akufo-Addo has been consistent with his message from 2008, saying that this country cannot afford to continue with the Guggisberg economy that we now have in operation. We need to transform our economy. We need to transform our nation. As part of that transformation means new industries will be brought in. Those new industries, the people who will work in the new industries must be Ghanaian. That means that Ghanaians must be educated, must be trained to be able to take up these new jobs. Hence his commitment to giving the people government-funded, free, quality education as an option. This is done in every single developed country in the world. Even in the U.S., with the most capitalist society on the planet today, they have free education, in fact, in their case, all the way up to university. So we cannot say that we're going to compete for jobs if we don't have an educated population. That is why we have the commitment to providing free quality education for our children. We've also committed to rescuing the health insurance scheme, which unfortunately for Ghana, they have instead of improving it as they promised to do, instead of bringing in this one premium payment, they have actually taken it backwards. And this is not asking, Jacob Echibi-Lamptey telling you. This is from your people's own experience of National Health Insurance Scheme as it is today, to compare to what they used to experience just 4 years ago.
So quickly, Jake, tell me in a very few words, if you can, yes or no, are you hopeful that on Friday, all the messages you took to the people, they will reward you and give you a win?
I'm extremely hopeful. I'm extremely confident. The only thing that worries me is if the NDC should revert to their normal thing that they have done before, intimidation and violence. okay, to try to see if they can suppress voters coming out to vote. But even that one, we have told our people to be resolute in the face of any challenges, to make sure that no Ghanaian is denied his birthright, which is the right to vote and to choose who shall govern this country. I believe that the people will answer that call, and that by the end of Friday, we will have gone through the election process successfully, the counting will have been done, and the results will be in the course of being declared, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
A new president will be elected, a new House of Parliament with an MPP majority will be elected.
Thank you. So, Jake, we'll have you hold that. I'll get to the studio and get some reaction from Alex Segbefia, and then we'll come back to you. So,
okay, once more, my apologies for not being there with you.
No problem. So, Alex, you heard Jake on a number of things. You have some reactions?
Well, I think that memories are short, and Jake is not being actually fair in terms of his analysis of John Mahama. In terms of contradictions, was it not the MPP who laughed at our door-to-door campaign in 2008? Who then goes and embarks upon a door-to-door campaign themselves? The MPP. Who goes on a listening tour? The MPP. When we were doing it in 2008, they were laughing at us. Oh, was it not the same MPP that told the whole world that we had turned the castle into a prayer camp? What does their latest advert say? About God is the decider or whatever. All of a sudden, they have become the most prayerful people around, because they realize that truly, without God, nothing is possible. But when Professor Mills said God is the president of this country and was having his daily prayers, they were laughing at us even in opposition. Free SHS, they were the ones who got rid of Kwame Nkrumah. It is a Kwame Nkrumah idea. It's not an MPP idea. It was Kwame Nkrumah who talked about free education. They were the ones who got rid of Kwame Nkrumah, and subsequently after that, our economy got so bad that we actually lost the ability to have free secondary education, etc., etc. So it is only a reintroduction. And yes, we all want free education at all levels. That is what the Constitution of Ghana envisages. So if somebody says in a debate, like John Mahama did, yes, we want free senior high school. We also want free tertiary. By the way, that's what we want. The Constitution enjoins us to move in that direction. But it says progressively. So you look at your circumstances at any given time and decide, is this the time for us to do it or not? We have simply said, the timing is wrong. Because you don't have enough schools, you do not have enough laboratories, you do not have even IT centers to go with the schools. There are still children on the trees. Move your percentage from 54 possibly to 80, 85, and then you can do it.
Alex,
that's the whole argument.
Alex, let's get a reaction from Jake. Jake,
no, before you do that, let me just give on the comparison.
Yeah, sure.
Jake should know that the comparison he's doing is an 8-year comparison against the 4-year comparison. What did they do in 4 years that they are comparing with our 4 years? That should be the comparison. And the mere fact that he can argue about our 4 years against his 8 years already puts him at a disadvantage, because it means our 4 years is standing up to his 8 years. And that is a plus for the NDC. So for me, when he mentions that Gaggisberg economy, we have been in power for only coming up to 4 years. They had 8 years. Why didn't they change it? I mean, is the Gaggisberg economy something that started in the last 4 years? It's been with us for 50 years. The last 8 years before these 4 years, you were in government. Why didn't you change it then, if it was that simple? So these are, for me, populist arguments. The reality is that the people on the ground know what the NDC has done, happy with the NDC, and as he says, we've had the arguments, we put our points forward. The real poll is only 2 days away. Possibly, we should all wait and see.
Yeah, I'm hoping to raise Jacob Echevilamte on the line if you're there, sir. Well, no. we lost Jacob Bechebilamte. So I'll take the opportunity to read some of your messages that are coming in. This one says, in the Holy Book, the Bible, the Jones came to prepare the way for a royal. In Ghana, we call royals Nana. Food for thought. Well, thank you. And then this one from Osman Adabraka says, today at the MPP rally, they said they will give our children free education and build more classrooms. Now, NDC should tell us what they will do for us and stop saying MPP can't do what they're saying. Osman, thank you very much for your comment. And then this one says, Nanado 63%, John Mahama 37%, and my name is Alex from Hafasini. That's your opinion, Alex. And this one has no name, but it says, I feel pity for the young MPP communicators. Akufo-Addo should apologize to Ghanaians for the all die be die comments. Sorry, this is from Maxwell and Gulf City. And Mr. Ekuban says that the NDC has nothing good to offer Ghanaians. And Kofi from Doma says, please tell Nana which pupils will be at the boarding house. And then Prince Henry from Asasewa, you say that true Ghanaians will vote against war and go for peace. Vote for JM for peace. That's from Prince. And then Razi from Anyako says, Nana, finally I fall in love with you. 7th January, it's your turn. I don't understand what you mean, but I guess you are in love with him. And then Kudamo Philip, you say that John Mahama is going to win whether there is Nana or not. And then this one says, please inform Mr. Alex that the mill ward the NDC is constructing at Boso Health Center in 2010 is Soja mine is still not completed. Well, and then this one says that Evans Takradi says the quality of the free senior high school can be seen as a total embodiment of John Mahama. The free education he had is what motivates us of the MPP to ensuring that every Ghanaian child will get what he, Mahama, had. Steve, tell Alex we need our money from Woyome before they can go. All Die Be Die is now hunting Nanado and his people. Inshallah, John Dramani Mahama all the way from Dean in Tamale. I'm sorry I don't have a lot of time to read all your messages. So let's get back to you and try and wrap up. There have been calls from civil society groups to ban the use of motorbikes as we go into the elections. Is this something your party supports?
Well, I believe that my personal position, and I cannot call it a party position,
okay,
is that I accept there's definitely a need for some banning of the motorbikes. But I think that it should have been curtailed to about midday of the day of voting, because there are lots of areas in the rural areas where the motorbike actually plays a very important part in terms of transportation. And even to get pregnant women or ladies with children to get to the polling station, motorbikes will be used. So if you have a window from about 6 to 12 where they get that opportunity to go use their motorbikes, but you make the rule that after 12 it's not going to be possible, you must walk or get a car to take you there, then at least those that know that this is going to be a problem will take advantage of the early day. The problem starts, nobody's going to snatch an empty ballot box. So you would hope that from about 12 o'clock, that is when possibly the snatching is going to start taking place, and that's what you're actually trying to avoid. So if you put in a ban at that stage till closure in to the next morning or whatever, that for me makes sense and it's worthwhile, as opposed to a blanket one. That's
so you feel that a blanket ban could disenfranchise some people who heavily depend on motorbiking for transportation.
But I think it's a good call that there must be a ban of some sort.
Right. Thank you very much, Deputy Chief of Staff Alex Segbefia. We're also joined on the phone by Jake Obechebilamte, who's the national chairman of the New Patriotic Party. We're joined also on phone by Kofi Bento, Vice President of Imani. Thanks to you for making time with us on PM Express with the best political team. My name is Stephen Enti. Constituency Watch follows right after.